thank you very much to the organizers of the conference to give me the opportunity to share my research with you. I'm going to present this paper that is titled Institutional Investors, Climate Disclosure and Carbon Emissions. It's co-authored with Shira Cohen and Igor Kadach. Right, so there is a debate on the role of institutional investors on the green transition. One view is that the institutional investors don't have enough incentives to push for decarbonization because there's free riding or greenwashing. But there's another view that investors do have these incentives to decarbonize, either because climate risk might affect the value of their portfolio, or simply because they are getting pressure from their clients to go in this direction. What's the evidence? Well, I mean, on one side, some studies find little effect on investors' environmental pledges in terms of, let's say, these pledges translating into meaningful decarbonization, at least at the aggregate level in the economy. But on the other hand, there is evidence that institutional ownership is associated with improvements in firms' ESG scores, and that the big three, so the largest funds, sort of not push for decarbonization at the firm level. Now, what we want to do in this paper is to contribute to this debate by addressing the question of whether investors push for climate disclosure. And then we do so in the context of CDP, formerly known Climate Disclosure Project. So we are talking about the largest global repository of carbon emissions information. Firms respond voluntarily to the CDP questionnaire. This is a questionnaire that is sent to thousands of firms around the world. Signatory investors have access to the information. Okay, so the investors sign up on the platform, and by signing up, they have access to this information that has been provided by firms around the world. And the CDP publishes the list of signatories. So signing onto the CDP is equivalent to, let's say, a public statement of interest on climate-related information. Okay, so if you're an investor, you sign up. Indirectly, you are saying that you are interested in that information, because this is mainly what it's giving you, is the right to have access to this information. And firms, this is another interesting feature that I think that it needs to be highlighted. Firms can keep the responses privately available only to CDP signatories. So not everybody is going to see these responses. It's going to be just the CDP signatories. There's an option to do that. Okay. Now, I mean, in this specific context, we address two research questions. The first one would be, does the presence of CDP signatories induce firms to disclose to the CDP? And the second is, do firms increase emissions after disclosing to the CDP? Now, let me talk a little bit the economics behind these two questions. Okay, so one point is, why would investors sign up to the CDP? Yeah, and there are benefits. For example, an investor that signed up has access, as I was saying before, has access to standardized, extensive climate disclosures. Okay. And it could use this information from the CDP to engage with firms in their portfolio, or to, let's say, reallocate their investment, okay, maybe to divest or to invest in certain companies. And being a CDP signatory also might help attract environmentally conscious investors, because this is publicly disclosed. There is a list there, and you are on the list, and investors, or let's say investment clients, might actually infer that you are environmentally friendly if you are on that list. But it could also have costs. Okay, so I mean, there's a modest monetary fee, but I think that the main cost here could be non-monetary, meaning the form of reputational cost. I mean, if you are not consistent with, let's say, this pledge that you are doing, because by signing up, you are somehow making a pledge. Why would firms disclose to the CDP? Well, firms could have benefits in the sense that by providing this information, they might attract funding from investors that are interested in this sort of information. And they could also avoid losing investors that might actually, quit that firm if the firm is not responsive to this information or request. But of course, there are costs, right? I mean, firms have significant preparation costs. We are talking about a very extensive survey with a lot of information. I mean, if you provide information that investors don't like, they might actually divest from you, right? Perhaps the disclosure costs are lower than public filings, but in any way, they're probably not trivial. Now, let me go quickly over the empirical results here. We are working with a very wide sample. I mean, we have more than 7,000 firms from 51 different countries in all industries of the economy. So we believe that this sample is wide enough, to draw meaningful inferences. And I'm going to give you a preview of the results. So this is what we find. We find that the probability of CDP disclosure is positively associated with CDP signatory holdings. We find this, let's say, conducting a standard association analysis. The results are pretty robust. We also conduct an event study around additions to the MSCI ACYI index. So when a firm, let's say, is included in this index, this attracts institutional investment. We also have a regression discontinuity analysis around the thresholds to be included in this index. We do this to sharpen identification, okay? Because just an association analysis might not be enough to infer causality in the sense that, causality in the sense that investors, let's say, pushing firms to disclose this information. The second set of tests or set of results is that, we find that the disclosure to the CDP is followed by lower carbon emissions. Okay? We also have an association analysis here, an event study around firms' first-time CDP disclosures. When you start disclosing, we also observe that you also have a decrease in emissions. We also conduct an analysis restricted to cases in which only influential signatories access the information, just to give us comfort that, let's say, these results are actually attributable to institutional investors and specifically to signatories. And we provide also some evidence on the mechanisms driving these results. We provide some evidence on the CDP information being used in engagements, investors engage in firms, evidence of CDP information used in divestment decisions. And before I conclude, just let me give you, let's say, an illustration of the results. This is the tests, something so that can be visible better, maybe this better than a table. This is the test on the additions to the MSCI ACYI index. So what we see here is that this compares a treatment group with a control group. So what we see here is that the probability of CDP disclosure goes up after you are included in the index. And then these are the results for the first-time disclosure to the CDP. Okay? When you start disclosing to the CDP, we observe a decrease in your emissions. And with this, I would conclude. I mean, the 2 points related to the two research questions. Investors induce firms to disclose climate-related information. This is one important result that I think that we have. And the second is that the disclosure is associated with a decrease in emissions. Okay. We hope that these results will be informative for the debate on the role of investors in the transition towards a greener economy. Thank you very much.